Do you want to know how many books I read in 2023? 0. Yeah. I know it's not that big of a deal, but it kinda is to me because it's partly due to this residual guilt that I have as somebody who studied literature in college. I used to read a lot of books growing up until my teenage years. And that was part of the reason why I chose to study literature. I thought, okay, I love reading books and I kind of like to write, so why not take up literature? And if you're somebody who studies literature and isn't really into books, not sure that's kind of a good place to be. And reading books is also a big deal to me because I work with words as a profession. See, I'm a copywriter for a digital bank. And a friend of mine who's also a writer would always say, if you aren't consuming words or books on a regular basis, how would you even be able to write anything? Which makes sense. How would you be able to produce anything if you weren't consuming the very thing that you wanted to produce? And one of the reasons I kind of insist on reading books is I feel it's one of the last places I can entertain myself without resorting to digital media. I'm always on my phone, on my laptop, on the TV, playing games, watching Netflix, whatever. And books are one of the last places I can lose myself in a nice story or somebody else's world without being in front of a TV screen. It was a huge bummer for me to not read any books last year. And to be honest, even the years that came before that, I didn't have a good record at all. So I think you understand why it's such a huge disappointment for me that I failed to read anything in 2023. This year though is different. In 2024, I managed to read this many books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books. Actually, I'm coming up to my 11th book if I manage to finish it at the end of the year. So what changed in 2024? How did I go from 0 books to almost 1 book a month for 2024? Let me tell you about the 3 ways I got out of my reading slump in 2024. Number 1, quit Goodreads. Now, I'm the kind of guy who loves cataloging all of the media he consumes, from TV shows to movies, video games, and now books. Goodreads, like to many other people, is a great way to save all of the books that you've read or wanted to read. And it's also a good place to get in touch with people who may have the same tastes as you do. And the primary way I used Goodreads was to save all of the books I wanted to read in the future. I would be constantly adding books I found in the bookstore, on the internet, and just save them for later reading on my Goodreads account. And the thing about building a backlog of books to read, it kind of achieves the same effect as having a list of things to watch on Netflix. You keep adding more and more titles to your pile. And just like any backlog, you kind of forget about them in favor of the shiny new thing that's in front of you and ready to be consumed. And instead of encouraging a habit of reading, Goodreads kind of became this black hole where I would just throw all of the books that I wanted to read, never to be heard of again. And don't get me started on the curse of reading challenges. Every year, I would challenge myself to read anywhere between 10 to maybe 20 books a year. And surprise, I wouldn't even come close to half of completing that challenge. So I gave up all of that. The reading challenges, the to-read pile. I basically just quit Goodreads and never looked back. And honestly, it's helped a lot in taking the pressure off me to read as many books as I can and to catalog my reading habits. It's helped me just go at my own pace and read the books I wanted to read. So yeah, quitting Goodreads has been very helpful. Number 2, except that a certain genre isn't for me. I always thought I was a fantasy kind of reader. You know, all the complex world building that you'd love to get lost in. Those magic systems written in such a way that almost feel like real science. Not to mention the sprawling conflicts and character arcs that span multiple books. To be fair, I have a pretty good history reading fantasy novels. Growing up, I read the usual suspects, your Harry Potters, your Chronicles of Narnias. And in college, I read The Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Later on, I would read books like The Witcher, The Poppy War, Jonathan Strange, the whole lot. I think the tipping point for me came when I thought I had it in me to start reading more high fantasy books. I made it about 3 books into the Wheel of Time series until I had to tap out because of, I'm so sorry to say this, but how flavorless the writing was. The same thing also kind of happened to me with the Stormlight Archive, where I couldn't get past the first chapter. What with all of the proper nouns and place settings that I couldn't appreciate at the time, to be honest. And before you come for me, I know how great all of these books are. I think it was also a matter of time and place when I started reading these books. And this insistence to keep reading only fantasy novels kind of kept me from exploring other genres and other books, and ultimately kept me from keeping up a steady reading habit. And as you can see from this list, I still have quite a few number of fantasy books that I read this year, but they alternate between other genres and other types of books, some non-fiction even. So if you're the kind of person who thrives reading just one genre of books, I'm happy for you. Unfortunately for me, I've had to let go of this vision that I have, that I'm just a fantasy reader. And to be honest, it's helped me in really good ways. Number 3, and this is gonna sound weird, but what helped me get back into reading is to judge a book by its cover. Ever since we finished building our house in 2023, I've been on this constant hunt for objects to display in our house. And turns out a lot of those objects I've been gravitating towards are books. So what would happen is I would go and buy books that really have nice covers to them, like this one I'm holding. And sometimes they would end up being quite difficult to read or wouldn't be in a writing style that I wasn't used to. But thankfully, I've managed to pull through and read every one of them so far. And one more good thing about this practice is I would get introduced to new authors or new styles of writing that I wouldn't normally get exposed to. Not to mention, they look really good on a shelf. Of course, I implore you not to take my advice too seriously. There's a reason the expression is not to judge a book by its cover. In fact, a lot of really good, eye-opening and life-changing books out there don't have what you would call a traditionally nice cover. And to avoid those kinds of books would be to miss out on really nice reading experiences. So, what's next? I don't plan on challenging myself to have a higher book count in 2025. I know that's never gonna end good. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and read any book that I want at any pace that I can. And actually, I have 4 more books already lined up to be read. So I'm hoping to finish my final book of 2024 and get started on these as soon as I can. Will I review any of the books I read in 2024? Maybe. If that kind of thing's interesting to you, let me know in the comments. But all in all, I'm just happy I got to share some of the things I did to get me out of a reading slump. And I hope it also helps you figure out your own reading challenges. If you also experienced any reading challenges similar to mine, let me know in the comments what you did to overcome them. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me until the end of this vlog. This might be the last video I'll be posting in 2024. So the next time I see you will probably be in 2025. Thank you guys for watching and supporting. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Bye.